As promised, this is the class how it's possible to get through the loss of a child. And there's even more to this story you're about to hear than that, but I don't want to give it away. Just want you to experience what Dr. Nancy Saltzman's about to share with us. And also another good buddy of mine, and he's a minister, Dan Hurst. That's coming up a little bit more in the episode here. But I'm so glad I could bring this to you because this is so important. And so many people come up and ask me, how is it possible to get through the loss of a child? And you're about to see how.
We had this wonderful life and school, work, everything. My husband loved to go see tennis tournaments. He liked to take the kids, he liked to take me. He and I had seen the US Open, and it was just a big part of our life.
And he ran a tennis school?
And he had a tennis shop.
Tennis shop.
Yes. So he came home one day, it was the fall of 1995.
Okay.
And he said, a friend of mine came in the shop today, and he said, can you get us tickets for the Davis Cup in Las Vegas? If you do, I'll rent a small plane and we can fly to Las Vegas. And he said, what I'd like to do is take the boys, go for a guy's weekend to Las Vegas, and then I realized it would be Seth's 11th birthday while they were gone. So I flew on a commercial flight and got there on Friday night, and they took me to see all the sights they'd seen since they'd been there. And then the next day was Seth's birthday, so we celebrated his birthday, and we went to see Cirque du Soleil, and just had a beautiful, wonderful time together.
As a family.
As a family.
Wonderful.
And so then they had to go back to Caesar's Palace to watch the tennis, or they wanted to go back, and I needed to go catch a flight home. Joel had left me a message at 3:30 and said, we're just getting to the airport now, we'll see you about 7:15 tonight. So I sort of busied myself, but just kept waiting for them to call, and about 10 o'clock, I did get a call, and a man identified himself as Officer McDonald, and he was calling from emergency services in Denver. And he said, we have a couple of planes down, and I'm sorry to tell you, there were no survivors. And I said to him, those were the most beautiful boys. I collapsed and cried, and then realized I needed to get up and tell people. I needed to call my family, and I needed to call Joel's family. And then I needed to call my boss and tell him, I can't come to school, this is what happened. And Seth was a 5th grader at my school, in my 5th grade classroom. And Adam was a 7th grader at the junior high, but he'd gone through my whole school. So I knew that it was going to affect everybody. It was going to be terrible.
I'm lost what to say except for this. At this moment, there's nothing funny.
No.
Nothing.
No. However? Yeah.
I was in a hospital room one day with a couple whose little girl was dying. She was 9 years old. And she had a heart condition, and they knew that she was going to die, and the doctors had already told them that she just has, just a few days left.
My family was there, and Joel's family was there.
How many days has this happened?
They were there within 24 hours.
Gotcha.
But they started doing a very wise thing. They started thinking about the good things about their little daughter. All of those really sweet times, that great pleasure, how she could light up a room, with just the silly things that she would do and say.
We also had to figure out not only what we were going to do with the bodies ultimately.
Yeah.
So they brought the bodies back. I made the decision that they should be cremated. But that they would be put in urns and then buried at a cemetery, the oldest cemetery in Colorado Springs, because I thought it was important for other people to be able to go visit them if that's what they wanted to do.
And a nurse came into the room at that time, and we were there even giggling. We were there in this room, and this little girl is in the bed on a respirator, and we're laughing. And the nurse just looked at us like, what is wrong with you people? And the dad looked at the nurse and he said, you know what she would do if she was awake right now? She'd wink at you. And the nurse was like, what? And he went on to explain, that's the way that she let people know that she liked them. She winked at them.
But then we had to go look at the cemetery and figure out where they would be in the cemetery.
I'm smelling humor here somewhere at the cemetery.
So we're driving,
Where you're
we're
going,
in
yeah.
vans. A very nice guy from Colorado Springs, Bob Penkus, owns a car dealership, lent us vans. We
Nice
could
plug
use.
for Bob there.
Yes.
Bob got a
Yeah,
plug.
there we go.
Is his business still going? Go see Bob, get a van.
That was that moment where they suddenly realized that life isn't about that moment when it's gone. It's about all those times that you lived it. And the humor was part of the life, not part of the death.
So I was in a van with a bunch of people from my family and Joel's family, and we started talking about the made-for-TV movie about this whole experience and who would play us in the movie.
And this is how many days after it happened?
Probably 48 hours.
48 hours, and you are deciding who's going to play the parts of the people that died in
Yeah.
your part in the movie.
Yes. So we were laughing about that. At the cemetery, we had to pick out the plot.
Yeah.
And where we were looking, there weren't any, there were some headstones, but
Okay.
not tons of headstones. So we were lying on the grass at the cemetery and just telling stories about Joel, Adam, and Seth, and telling jokes that they remembered that Joel had told. To go on, I have a therapist who explained it to me like this. I had to reach up for the life preserver. I always had to get out of my head and reach up for the life preserver. And that's what it did. It's telling a story, hearing a story, thinking about them in a different way allowed me to reach up for the life preserver.
Many times the humor comes in a tough time in retrospect of the situation. It doesn't happen right at that moment. But thinking back and laughing about it is what makes it a pleasant memory instead of a haunting one.
So we were looking for where we wanted to bury. They were going to all be buried in urns together in one plot. And we walked into one row, and it was the whole Boner family.
Did you bury Joel by the boners?
Oh, of course we did. And I feel bad for people sometimes on an airplane if they say, do you have any children? And so I say, well, actually, I lost my husband and I had 2 children in an airplane crash.
While you're in a plane, you say that.
And I don't know them, right? Yeah, exactly.
You're
And
saying
that's
that-
where it
you're
happens
saying
a
that
lot.
in an
That's
airplane.
right, yeah. Oops.
Enjoy your flight.
And that's what humor does. It restores the life itself.
Are you married?
Oh, I'm actually engaged, and yes, I feel very, very lucky again to have fallen in love and be with someone as wonderful as he is.
Nancy was married in March of 2014, and she is still married. I just want you to know that. And isn't it magnificent what Dan Hurst said? Life isn't about those moments that are gone. It's about those moments that you lived it. Listen to me. My voice is cracking. I love that. It's so, to me, it's beautiful, inspiring. It teaches me to live, especially when you get so sad, especially. And sometimes, though, you can't do it on your own. And that's what the next class coming up is about. Sometimes you can't get it on your own. You are so deep in the funk and depression of grief, you can't get out. And then sometimes there's a knock on the door. And that's what the next class is about. Live life. Live those moments. Love it. Laugh. Memento mori. See you at the next class.